real quick. This is Dark Side of the Ring, season 3, Plane Ride from Hell. I'm going to show you the 3 parts that really got talked about Tommy Dreamer and the things that he said. And then maybe I'll discuss some of it, my opinions and everything later. But here, real quick, here are the 3 parts. I'm going to skim to them.
To impose by force any sexual stuff onto anybody. He's just flaunting, styling and profile and doing like the Ric Flair stuff where everybody's going to laugh about it. But obviously someone took offense to it.
Accusing Flair.
If that's how she felt, maybe she should have not taken a payout and went to the fullest extent of the law to then truly put this heinous person in jail. My opinion.
People have their own opinions of what happened, what the damage was, though no one should really have their opinion when it didn't happen to them.
Guys are freaks.
I feel this is trying to portray someone as this sexual predator, and it's not. It's a joke, it's a gag. And today, 1000% inappropriate. My hairstyle is inappropriate right now. I am somehow offending someone right now with my double ponytail. How dare I have 2 ponytails? And my answer is I'm 50 years old, I'm happy I have hair. But if you're asking me, I've hung out with Ric Flair. I've never seen him try to force his will against anybody.
I don't feel that his intent was to rape me. But what he did was wrong. It was wrong, and he goes to sleep that night and thinks he made it back from his wrestling trip in Europe, and maybe he has a headache because he had too many cocktails on the airplane.
Yeah, so...
And yet, that night I didn't go to sleep.
In my opinion...
my trip to work, my...
Yeah, so that's what Tommy Dreamer said. That's what's got him, the whole thing, you know, the whole controversy surrounded. In my opinion... I'm glad that they did show Tommy Dreamer. He might be getting a short end of a stick here to a degree. I'm glad that they did show him just to give a counter argument because you don't want it to look like they're slandering somebody. I think they wanted a counter opinion to the flight attendants' accusations. I think they wanted something to kind of balance that out. To some degree, and Tommy Dreamer signs off on it, states his opinion, and it sounds like he's, you know, somebody who's standing up for a friend who believes that he's wrongly accused. And, you know, he might be completely wrong. He might not have he might not have seen everything or whatever. And, you know, he might just be coming to a friend's defense. And that's kind of almost what it sounds like. The hair thing's a little weird of analogy. But you can tell he doesn't all the way get it. You know, again, he's coming from an era where if you listen to what RVD just said, they used to, unfortunately, you know, drop
Shave his head,
drugs in people's drinks. And
local girls, you know, were put out so the boys could have their way with them while they're out. I mean, this was it was kind of normal in some of the places that I've been,
and that's very disturbing. But I mean, you know, I was born in '88. You know, I remember, you know, it was just a different time. If you're younger, you're not gonna remember how like fucked up the world was back then. You know, and I was young through it, but like the way that women were treated was just completely shitty back then. And you know, so I think, you know, men that came up in that era sometimes are oblivious to the smaller things that are so painful, and the smaller things that are so uncomfortable for women. And I think Tommy Dreamer is, you know, a hardcore legend, and he's, you know, doing some crazy shit back in the day. ECW, I mean, that locker room, it was a wild one, I'm sure. So I just think, you know, he's not. I mean, let's be honest. It's Tommy Dreamer. It's one of the game's most. It's Tommy Dreamer. It's a hardcore legend. It's a hardcore icon. I'm not looking at him to be, you know, the most socially conscious, aware person. However, some of his comments were a little bit, you know, questionable. The analogy to the hair thing it just shows he doesn't all the way get it. And again, he's from that era where, like RVD said, you know, it was a unfortunate common thing to see, men drop drugs in people's drinks and do whatever to them when they pass out. And he specifically says women and stuff. But again, if you're coming from that and then you go to just a guy exposing himself, in comparison, the exposing thing is nothing, right? When you're comparing them. But I think people from that era sometimes forget that that those things are terrible as well. And they might be little by comparison. Yeah, it's not rape, but it's sexual harassment. It's uncomfortable. It's creepy. It's a lot of it's intimidating for women. So again, it's hard, I think, for some people that to I think it's hard for some of them for it to click. You're going through locker rooms where women are doing the craziest stuff and men are doing the craziest stuff, and so you just see Ric Flair strutting down the plane the millionth time with his robe out, spinning his gigantium penis, and I think you just like, oh, that's just Flair being Flair, and you're dismissing something that shouldn't be dismissed. It's just another moment in y'all's life, but it's a severe one in hers. And I just don't think Tommy Dreamer completely gets that. And it sounds like he's also, trying to stand up for a friend that he firmly believes did nothing wrong. He possibly didn't see everything, or possibly didn't get the real perspective of everything. And it sounds like he's just like, no, you're not going to slander my friend. I appreciate that Vice just also showed some defense of Flair. You don't want to just bash these things one side. In my opinion, the flight attendant sounded like she was telling an honest story. In my opinion, if I'm a decent reader character, it didn't seem like anything she was saying was coming off made up or anything. She clearly stated she's not accusing that his intention was ever to do anything rape or harmful like that. It was just a very uncomfortable moment for her, and it's classified as sexual assault, I guess, by definition, harassment or assault by definition. But again, back then, these things weren't like, it was just it was a fucked up culture back then, way more so. It's crazy how far we've came in such little time, but dudes were just doing that type of thing back then a lot more. And again, you're coming from this locker room and you hear these stories, and you just know how foul dudes were treating women back then. So by comparison to somebody like Tommy Dreamer, it probably doesn't seem like that big a deal, but in reality it is. It should be. It should have been, definitely. And back then it's that whole, why would you? Yeah, money. Like the lady explained that, I think, pretty well. It's sad that money has to be that medium, but you think of all the problems that money can solve itself in its hopes to relieve some burden, but in actuality, deep down, it doesn't, and those things really just can continue lingering and hanging. So it's something to be, socially aware of, consciously aware. I don't, blame TNA for, pausing it right quick and saying, hey, we gotta, I think Tommy is I hope a decent dude. He seems like a decent dude and stuff. I just think, you just got some wrong thoughts on it. Sometimes your delivery isn't the best, and I think the delivery was actually probably worse than even the thoughts. Sometimes people just say things and it comes out worse than what they're trying to say. So, Tommy Dreamer's a hardcore dude, hardcore legend and a fighter. I'm not really going to look at him to present the best well-written argument for something. So I take that into consideration too. I always take into consideration, like, who are we looking at for what, I mean, you're talking about a dude that goes through flaming tables and thumbtacks for a living. And not knocking his intelligence. Very bright dude, very smart dude. I'm just saying some of the socially progressive issues, I'm not going to lean all the way into him for my guiding examples. That's all. So this was definitely a fun episode, though. Speaking of bad delivery, this was a fun episode for the rest of the stuff. This was all the dark, horrific stuff, but man, the Mr. Perfect and Brock Lesnar fight with the shaving cream on the head, and slamming against the emergency door at 30,000 feet in the air, and how much liquor was obtained, and Michael Hayes busting JBL in the face, JBL slapping him unconscious, and X-Pac cutting his ponytail. That was all fucking great, man. I loved it. It was hilarious. I was dying. I was a little disappointed. I was looking forward to hearing about like the Vince McMahon, Kurt Angle, Undertaker stuff. I don't know if that was just a myth, a different flight, or what, but I heard Undertaker was choking some people out. Woke up, thought Vince McMahon was getting attacked. Kurt Angle and Vince was going at it or something. So where was that at? Is that real? Somebody let me know. But it was a crazy episode, very insightful, man. I remember it like when JR got fired, like it was yesterday, man. It was like, what the hell? But didn't know that about Razor. Scott Hall rather. It's sad. Scott Hall's had some just a crazy ass life story. Shit that he's been through, man. I mean, most of the wrestlers have, but it's just. Scott, I like to think is a good person, just bad choices and some stumps on the road, but it's a little heartbreaking to hear some of that. But man, crazy episode.